Why did the Trojans open the gates for a wooden horse? For 10 long years, the bronze-clad Greeks had camped beneath the walls of Troy. 10 years of siege, raid, and duel. 10 years in which Hector was slain, Achilles fell, and still the city stood unbroken. Then, one morning, the Trojans woke to silence. The Greek ships were gone. The beach lay empty. Only a single, colossal wooden horse stood before the Scaean gate, an offering to the gods, the Greeks said. By nightfall, Troy was burning. How could the most powerful city of the Bronze Age fall to a hollow statue? This is the story of the ultimate deception. The night the Trojan horse rolled through the gates and an empire died. The war had begun with a woman, or so the poets claim. Paris of Troy stole Helen, wife of Menelaus of Sparta. Agamemnon, king of Mycenae, summoned every Greek king bound by the oath of Tydeus. 1,000 black ships sailed to the coast of Asia Minor. They expected a quick victory. Instead, they met walls 25 feet thick, built by Apollo and Poseidon themselves. Troy sat on wealth: gold from the Pactolus, horses from the Cilician plains, grain from the Black Sea colonies. King Priam commanded allies from a dozen nations: Thracians, Carians, Lycians, Amazons. The Greeks could not breach the walls. They could only wait. 10 years wore both sides down. Achilles killed Hector and dragged his body around the city. An arrow guided by Apollo killed Achilles. Ajax went mad and slaughtered sheep, thinking they were Greeks. Palamedes was stoned on a false charge of treason. The Greek camp became a place of plague, mutiny, and despair. The Trojans, though still safe behind their walls, lost their greatest champion and saw their fields burned year after year. Both sides needed the war to end. The idea came from the craftiest of the Greeks, Odysseus, king of Ithaca. He had once tried to avoid the war by feigning madness, plowing his fields with an ox and an ass yoked together. Palamedes placed the infant Telemachus in the furrow. Odysseus turned aside and revealed his sanity. Now he would use that same cunning to finish the war he never wanted. He proposed the horse. Epius, master carpenter of the Greek fleet, built it. A hollow horse of fir and maple, taller than the walls, ribs like a ship's hull. Inside, a ladder led to a hidden chamber large enough for 50 picked warriors. Some say only 30, some say 100. The names are carved in legend: Odysseus, Menelaus, Neoptolemus son of Achilles, Diomedes, Philoctetes with Heracles' bow, Sinon the lyre, and others. They climbed in, armed with swords and spears, and the hatch was sealed. The rest of the army burned their huts, boarded the ships, and sailed just over the horizon to the island of Tenedos. Before leaving, they carved an inscription on the horse. The Greeks dedicate this thank offering to Athena for a safe return home. Then, they left one man behind, Sinon. Sinon's job was to sell the lie. When the Trojans rode out at dawn, they found him beaten and bleeding, hands bound. He told a perfect story. The Greeks had despaired of taking Troy. A prophecy said only a colossal offering to Athena would grant them safe passage home. They built the horse, so large that the Trojans could never bring it inside the walls. If they did, Athena's favor would pass to Troy forever. If they destroyed it, her wrath would fall on them. To ensure the horse stayed outside, the Greeks had tried to kill Sinon as a human sacrifice, but he escaped. King Priam and his counselors debated. Two voices warned against the horse. Laocoön, priest of Poseidon, hurled his spear into the horse's flank. The bronze tip rang hollow. He cried, "Whatever it is, I fear the Greeks even when they bring gifts." His niece, Cassandra, cursed to speak truth no one believed, screamed that the horse was full of armed men. No one listened. Then fate sealed Troy's doom. Two enormous sea serpents rose from the waves and crushed Laocoön and his 2 sons in their coils. The Trojans took it as a sign. The gods punished Laocoön for attacking Athena's offering. The warning was ignored. The horse would enter the city. The walls were too high and the horse too tall. They tore a breach in the fortifications beside the Scaean gate. 4 times the horse stuck fast. 4 times it rolled forward, with a groan that sounded almost human. They crowned it with flowers, sang hymns, and dragged it through the streets to the Temple of Athena on the citadel. That night, Troy celebrated the end of the war. Wine flowed, sentinels drank themselves senseless. The gates were left open for cool night air. At midnight, Sinon lit the signal fire. The Greek fleet turned back from Tenedos. Inside the horse, Odysseus pressed his hand over Anticlus's mouth to stop him crying out when Helen walked beneath the horse, calling each Greek hero's wife by name, in perfect imitation of their voices. When all was quiet, Sinon opened the hatch. One by one, the warriors dropped to the ground, knees stiff from hours in the dark. They moved like shadows, first to the gates to throw them wide for the returning army, then to the palaces. Agamemnon's men killed Priam at the altar of Zeus, where he had taken sanctuary. Neoptolemus dragged Hector's infant son Astyanax from his nurse and hurled him from the walls. Menelaus burst into the women's quarters, seeking Helen. He raised his sword, then lowered it. Beauty still had power. By dawn, Troy was a furnace. The palace of Priam burned. The great towers crashed. The treasury was looted. The women, Cassandra, Andromache, Hecuba, were chained as prizes. Aeneas escaped with his father on his back, and the household gods in his arms, the seed of Rome. Everything else perished. The Greeks sailed home with blood on, their hands and Troy's gold in their holds. Most would never see Greece again. Agamemnon murdered by his wife. Odysseus lost for 10 years. Menelaus wandering 8. Only Nestor came home quickly and peacefully. The gods punished the victors almost as harshly as the defeated. Troy itself vanished. The great walls were toppled. The site lay buried for 3,000 years until Heinrich Schliemann dug with Homer in one hand and a spade in the other. He found 9 cities, one atop the ruins of another. Troy VIIa, destroyed around 1180 BC, showed arrowheads in the streets, burned palaces, and a layer of ash 2 meters deep. The horse left no trace, but the story did. Why did the Trojans open the gates? Because they believed the war was over. Because they wanted to believe. Because pride demanded they accept the offering the Greeks could not. Because religious terror silenced the voices of caution. Because Sinon lied perfectly, and the gods themselves seemed to confirm the lie. A hollow horse, a single night, an empire erased. That is how Troy fell. The fall of Troy did not end with the last scream in the burning palace. It echoed through centuries, becoming the archetype of every great deception in war. The Greeks themselves never forgot the price. Their playwrights turned the story into tragedy after tragedy. Euripides showed the women of Troy led away in chains, Cassandra prophesying Agamemnon's murder, Hecuba howling over the broken body of Astyanax. Aeschylus put Agamemnon on stage wearing the blood-soaked robe Clytemnestra used to trap and kill him. The victory was poisoned from the first sip. Virgil gave the Trojans their revenge in poetry. In the Aeneid, Aeneas carries his father Anchises and the Penates out of the burning city. He wanders the Mediterranean, fights Turnus in Italy, and founds the bloodline that will one day build Rome. The defeated become the ancestors of the greatest empire the world would ever know. The horse is mentioned only in passing, yet it casts its shadow over the entire epic. Rome drank deep from the story. Julius Caesar traced his lineage to Aeneas and Iulus, son of Aeneas. Augustus had the fall of Troy painted on the walls of his palace as a warning against hubris. The phrase, "Beware of Greeks bearing gifts," entered Latin as Timeo Danaos et dona ferentes. Every Roman schoolboy knew it. The image of the horse became the universal symbol of infiltration and betrayal. When medieval chroniclers wanted to describe a city taken by trick, they called it a Trojan horse. When Renaissance engineers designed siege weapons, they sometimes shaped them like horses in homage. When Shakespeare needed a perfect image of false friendship, he had Hamlet call fortune a strumpet and speak of the wooden horse of deceit. Modern war rediscovered the concept again and again. In 1943, British intelligence launched Operation Mincemeat, a corpse dressed as a Royal Marine officer carrying fake invasion plans washed ashore in Spain. The Germans swallowed the bait exactly as the Trojans had. Sicily fell with minimal resistance. The officer's name was changed to Major William Martin, but the planners nicknamed the operation the Trojan Horse. In 1944, Allied paratroopers dropping behind Utah Beach used cricket clickers to identify friend from foe in the dark. One click, answer with two. The same principle the Greeks used when they climbed out of the horse and needed to find each other in burning Troy. Every special forces operation since, the raid on Entebbe, the Bin Laden compound, the tunnels of Gaza, carries the DNA of Odysseus and Sinon. Insert a small, highly trained team inside the enemy fortress. Open the gates from within. The technology changes, the principle does not. The archaeologists keep digging. The story itself is the true artifact. It has survived because it speaks to something eternal in human nature, the fatal mixture of hope, pride, and exhaustion that makes even the wisest city open its gates to the perfect lie. The Trojans were not stupid. They were war-weary. They had buried Hector, watched their allies fall, seen their fields burned for a decade. They wanted the nightmare to end. When Sinon told them the horse would make Troy invincible forever, they heard what they needed to hear. When the serpents crushed Laocoön, they saw a divine confirmation. When the horse stuck 4 times in the breach, they took it as a test of faith and pulled harder. That is the most chilling part. The deception worked not because the Trojans were fools, but because they were human. The wooden horse still rolls through history. Every password, phishing email, every false flag operation, every promise of peace in our time that hides a dagger is its descendant. Every time a nation lowers its guard because it wants to believe the war is finally over, Troy burns again. The gates are always open somewhere.